But then some new information actually came out today, and it's, I don't even know what to call it other than corruption and fraud, because you just saw the two documents I presented to you. The Bergdorf fella, he said that he is swearing these statements to be true. He knows that if they're not true, that he is capable of being punished under the law. Now, the circuit attorney, Christopher Hinckley, same thing, right? He read the probable cause statement, presumably, and then signed off on it and sent that stuff off to the court. Well, here is what we learned today. The gun waved at the protesters from Patricia was inoperable when it arrived at the St. Louis crime lab. So the little handgun didn't even work. So remember element number 4, that it was readily available to be used as a weapon, readily fireable? It wasn't. It didn't even work. Here's what we've got. A member of Kim Gardner's staff, so she is the lead prosecutor out of Missouri, ordered that the crime lab, so if you remember, there were warrants executed on the McCloskeys. They went into their house with a warrant and they seized their firearms. They took them out. They took those back to the crime lab and they started to analyze them. Well, here's what we discovered today. The firearm could not be test fired as submitted. At the request of the Assistant Circuit Attorney Chris Hinckley, the firearm was field stripped and found to have been assembled incorrectly. The firing pin spring was placed in front of the firing pin, which was backwards, and will not fire in this condition. The firearm was reassembled properly, test fired, and functioned as designed. No additional defects were observed. So, does that meet the element, at least to Patricia? We don't have any evidence on Mark's gun, but Patricia's gun didn't work, meaning the firing pin, so the pin that hits the butt of the actual bullet, the ammunition, it hits the rear of the casing, causes the explosion, the bullet head flies out of the firearm and hits its target. Didn't work. Didn't even work. And the reason was because Patricia is a lawyer and they actually needed this gun in a court case. So the court wouldn't let them bring it in unless that they could confirm that it was inoperable. And of course, the way you do that is by removing or adjusting the firing pin so that when you pull the trigger, the spring doesn't pop the head forward and hit the back of the bullet. It just doesn't do anything. And that's exactly the situation. So she had her finger on it. She's waving it around, but it didn't work. It wasn't readily available to fire. It doesn't hit the fourth element that's required under the law. And they charged her anyways. So this document is something that internal notes. It says it's part of the evidence submission. The firearm could not be test fired. The evidence was submitted as a digital media card. This looks like a document that you get from evidence, right? It's what the officers are working on as they're transporting documents from one officer to another, from one department to another. They're saying the gun itself didn't even work, but two people signed off on this, ACA Chris Hinckley and then Bergdorf. They both said that the statement that they made as to Patricia's gun, that she broke the law, it's just not accurate. It's fraudulent. It's not accurate. They took the gun apart from her possession, they reassembled it, and then they fired it. So in her possession, you couldn't even use it. But by the time they took it out of the crime lab and charged her, they reassembled it in order to make it illegal. They took something that did not meet those elements. It was missing number 4, and they fixed it up and they made it meet the elements, which is insane. And they charged her anyways. So this is, we've got 3 people now who are responsible for this, all involved in law enforcement, all involved with the prosecutor's office. You've got the investigator, you've got Hinckley, and you've got Kim Gardner, all just actually manipulating evidence in order to help it meet their facts. And they still charged this document. Kim Gardner was asked about it. Her spokesman said, "We can't comment on a pending case." So they're not even going to comment on their little falsification of evidence. I mean, this is crazy. What if this document was not saved somewhere? Or what if an investigator didn't mention it? The evidence was in their possession. They were manipulating it. They were moving it around. If this fact didn't come out, maybe those charges would have a little bit more weight to them, but they don't. They wouldn't anyways.